Live at 4, this is 13 News Now.
Welcome to 13 News Now at 4. I'm Regina Mobley.
And I'm Janet Roach. Things are about to get busy around Virginia Beach Town Center as people head out for their Friday night plans.
You may need a jacket tonight, but tomorrow things are looking great. Let's check in now with Jeff for the forecast.
All righty. Well, we are talking about some mild conditions out there today. Tomorrow, even warmer. By the way, that is from when they were working on our tower a little bit earlier, as Evan pointed out yesterday, obscuring the view just ever so slightly. But a nice picture, not a cloud in the sky out there right now. Even the jets, the contrails, are evaporating almost soon as they form. So even way up in the atmosphere, there is no humidity out there. So nothing at all to track on radar. Current conditions out there right now, 54 degrees. We had predicted 52, and it actually made it even a little warmer than that. And look at that humidity level. You don't see that a whole lot. 22 degrees out there right now. That southwesterly wind at 11, responsible for bringing in that added warmth. This is the shot right now from the Island House Restaurant up in Watchuk Creek. And with that as a pretty background, we have a pretty decent forecast for this evening. You can see this is in general sort of the urbanized areas, if you will. Dropping here from this point way up high, we start to get lower and lower and lower. We end up by 5 o'clock already down into the lower 30s. But that's, as I mentioned, in urbanized locations. If you get rural at all or inland or either one, you're going to be talking readings dropping all the way down into the 20s. And I think some of you in the very coldest or most rural of spots will actually get down even into the mid-20s. After that, we start that trend back up, as I said, for tomorrow. And then pretty much for a few days even after that, I'll talk all about it coming up.
All right, thanks, Jeff. We are less than 8 hours away from a potential government shutdown. Lawmakers and the president have until midnight to reach an agreement to pass a funding agreement.
If they don't, non-essential government workers could face days or weeks without paychecks. The House has passed a funding bill, but it faces trouble in the Senate.
ABC's Kenneth Moten explains why.
The showdown in the Senate to keep the government open.
What has been shoehorned into this discussion is an insistence that we deal with an illegal immigration issue.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer summoned to the White House by President Trump. The fight over a one-month funding bill that's already passed the House with no fix for the Dreamers.
We made some progress, but we still have a good number of disagreements. The discussions will continue.
The blame game in full effect. From President Trump, no response to shouted questions in the Rose Garden. He and Republicans in charge, but accusing the Democrats of holding the country hostage over those 800,000 young immigrants.
Our position is that we want the DREAM Act, and we're willing to, we know our responsibility to secure our borders.
But Trump rejected the bipartisan Senate immigration deal on the table. The president tweeting this morning, Democrats want illegal immigration and weak borders. Shutdown coming, we need more Republican victories in 2018.
There's no way you could lay this at the feet of the President of the United States. He is actively working to try to get a deal.
A new ABC News Washington Post poll finds 48% of Americans would blame Trump and the GOP for a shutdown versus the Democrats.
The last time one party held all the offices, the president, the House, and the Senate, and a shutdown occurred was in the 70s with Jimmy Carter. And that historical precedent, where Jimmy Carter ended up losing the presidency in 1980, is not a good precedent.
The Trump administration has put departments and agencies on notice, advising them to review their contingency plans. Kenneth Moten, ABC News, Washington.
With the funding bill heading to the Senate, let's take a look at where Virginia and North Carolina's senators stand tonight. First, Democratic Virginia Senator Mark Warner has come out against a month-long continuing resolution saying there needs to be a real budget. He tweeted last night, the House Republican CR is not a real solution. It's a false choice between kicking the can down the road and shutting down the government. Democratic Virginia Senator Tim Kaine retweeted the Pentagon saying stopgap continuing resolutions are wasteful and demanding a full budget.
In North Carolina, Republican Senator Tom Tillis says he will vote for the continuing resolution. He says he agrees this is not the best way to run government, but thinks lawmakers shouldn't let a shutdown happen.
I hope that my Republican colleagues recognize that voting against the funding bill is a bad idea. How do you work out of a shutdown? Almost certainly it will not end well.
Senator Tillis says Congress should work to reach a deal on things such as DACA at a later time. 13 News Now has reached out to North Carolina's other senator, Republican Richard Burr, but we've not heard back from him.
And the nation has lived through a shutdown in recent years. After the federal government ran out of money in 2013, the government shut down for 16 days. Now, check out some of the impacts. At Naval Medical Center Portsmouth, about 400 civil servants were furloughed. The 2013 shutdown also hit the National Guard. The military furloughed 550 people, and 190 full-time and part-time workers were not recalled. And 3,600 civil servants were off the job for 2 weeks, leading to the big pauses in their research projects. In all, more than 21,000 people in Hampton Roads had to stop working in the last shutdown.
And with the chance for thousands of possibly furloughed non-essential personnel, some local businesses around bases are very concerned. For example, one barbershop near JEB Little Creek Fort Story is heavily dependent on military traffic. They say about 65% of their business comes from the base. This alteration shop is also preparing for a possible government shutdown. The owner says his eyes have been glued to the television every day.
What we're hearing and what we're seeing on the TV, from the newspapers, we don't know exactly how far it can go.
On 13 News Now at 5, hear how businesses are preparing to deal with possible financial losses. 13 News Now is following the developments with the budget crisis every step of the way. We will let you know if Congress gets closer to reaching a deal, and we're digging deeper into the potential economic impact of a shutdown here at home. And you can find everything on 13newsnow.com.
New at 4, Virginia Beach responds to a lawsuit over the failed arena deal. The city is facing a suit from the developer who wanted to build an arena near the oceanfront.
But the city says it did everything it was supposed to do. 13 News Now anchor David Allen is here to explain.
Well, the city says it plans to defend itself vigorously against the lawsuit. Mid-Atlantic Arena LLC filed the lawsuit this month, claiming Virginia Beach refused to honor its legal commitment to the developer. The city pulled the plug on the planned arena late last year, saying Mid-Atlantic failed to provide all the necessary financial documents by a certain deadline. But Mid-Atlantic says it had all of the paperwork ready, and they're asking for $165 million. In a statement, Virginia Beach City Attorney Mark Stiles said, in part, "We are disappointed that Mid-Atlantic has chosen this path. The city did everything reasonably that it could to support Mid-Atlantic's development of an arena in Virginia Beach." The city has hired a private law firm, Wilcox & Savage, to handle the case. 13 News Now will keep following developments with this case. For now, live in the studio, David Allen, 13 News Now.
This just in, a woman 9 months pregnant is hit by a car in a Starbucks parking lot in Newport News. Happened at the coffee shop on J. Clyde Morris Boulevard, not far from Jefferson Avenue, around 2:20 this afternoon. And police tell us an elderly driver involved in the 3-vehicle accident on the boulevard drove into the parking lot, hitting the pregnant woman. Medics took her to a hospital as a precaution, and we're told she's only complaining of leg pains.
We're following a developing story out of Hampton. A mother is headed to prison in connection with her son's death. Tanya Slayton pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter today for killing her son Quincy Davis. In June 2015, a state trooper, Chad Deermeyer, pulled Tanya Slayton's car over on I-64 in Hampton. Trooper Deermeyer found Quincy's body in Slayton's trunk. No one had seen Quincy since the year 2004, when he was a middle school student in Virginia Beach. Quincy is believed to have died in 2004 or 2005. Slayton will serve at least 8 years in prison.
Today, the USS Fitzgerald arrived at a Mississippi shipyard for repairs. Back in June, the U.S. Navy destroyer collided with a Japanese tanker. 7 sailors, including a Hampton Roads man, died. And the ship's commander is charged with negligent homicide. Ingalls Shipbuilding in Pascagoula will oversee the repairs. It's a unit of the Virginia-based Huntington Ingalls Industries in Newport News. The Navy plans to modernize the ship, which was built in 1995. It was already scheduled for an overhaul in 2019.